They weren't supposed to go inside. That was the one rule everyone in town seemed to agree on, even if nobody ever said it out loud. The house sat at the edge of a narrow gravel road, half swallowed by trees that had grown too close over the years. The paint had long peeled away, leaving behind gray, splintering wood. Windows were either shattered or boarded up unevenly, and the front porch sagged just enough to make you think it might collapse if someone stepped on it wrong. People passed it all the time, nobody stopped. But Kyle had always been the kind of person who needed to prove things weren't as bad as they looked. He, Connor, and James had been driving around late that night with nothing to do. It was one of those cold weekends where everything felt quiet and empty, like the town had gone to sleep early. They were seniors in high school, bored, restless, and looking for something to turn into a story they could laugh about later. That's when Kyle brought it up. He pointed down the road as they passed the trees. "You guys ever actually been inside that place?" Connor laughed. "No, and I'm not planning to." James, who was driving, slowed down just slightly as they passed the driveway. "My cousin said some guy used to live there, never left. Then one day he just disappeared." "Yeah," Kyle said, already smiling. "That's exactly why we should check it out." There was a pause. Not the kind where people are thinking it over seriously. The kind where they're already halfway convinced, but waiting for someone else to agree first. Connor sighed. "We're not going inside. We can pull up, look at it, whatever. That's it." "Fine," Kyle said. "Just a look." James turned the car around. The gravel crunched loudly as they pulled into the overgrown driveway. Weeds brushed against the sides of the car, and the headlights cut through the trees, landing directly on the front of the house. It looked worse up close. The porch leaned slightly to one side. The front door was shut, but not fully, just enough of a gap to show darkness inside. One of the upstairs windows had something hanging behind it, like a curtain, or maybe just a torn piece of fabric swaying slightly. None of them spoke for a few seconds. Then Kyle opened the door. "Come on," he said, stepping out. "We're already here." Connor stayed in the passenger seat. "I'm serious. I'm not going in." James hesitated, then grabbed his phone and followed Kyle out. "We'll just look inside and leave." Kyle was already halfway to the porch. The wood creaked under his weight as he stepped up. James followed more carefully, testing each step like he expected it to give out. Connor watched from the car, arms crossed, shaking his head. "Just don't be idiots," he called out. Kyle pushed the front door open with 2 fingers. It swung inward slowly, dragging against the floor with a low scraping sound. The smell hit them first. It wasn't strong, not like rot or anything obvious. Just stale, like air that hadn't moved in years, mixed with something faintly metallic underneath. James lifted his phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a narrow entryway covered in dust. The floorboards were scuffed, but not in a random way. There were marks, lines, almost like something had been dragged across the floor repeatedly. Kyle stepped inside. James followed. From the car, Connor watched their silhouettes disappear into the darkness. "All right, 2 minutes," he muttered to himself. Inside, the house felt smaller than it looked from the outside. The hallway stretched forward with doorways on either side. The walls were stained and cracked, and pieces of wallpaper hung loose like peeling skin. The air felt heavier the deeper they went, like it was pressing in around them. "Dude, this place is wrecked," James said quietly. Kyle didn't answer. He was staring at the floor. James followed his gaze. The drag marks they'd seen near the entrance continued down the hallway, becoming more noticeable the farther in they went. Some of them overlapped, crossing over each other in messy patterns. "Probably animals," James said, though it didn't sound like he believed it. Kyle stepped over one of the marks and kept walking. At the end of the hallway, there was a door slightly ajar. Unlike the others, it looked newer. Not new exactly, but less damaged. The wood wasn't splintered. The handle wasn't rusted. Kyle reached for it. "Hey," James said, a little sharper this time. "We said we were just looking." Kyle pushed the door open anyway. The room beyond was almost completely empty. No furniture, no decorations, just bare walls and a floor covered in a thin layer of dust. Except for one thing. In the center of the room there was a chair. It faced the doorway, and on the floor around it the drag marks circled in tight loops, over and over again, like something had been pulled around that chair repeatedly. James took a step back. "All right, that's enough," he said. "Let's go." Kyle didn't move. He stepped closer to the chair, his shoes disturbing the dust. Then he stopped. "Do you hear that?" he asked. James listened. At first there was nothing. Then, faintly, from somewhere deeper in the house, a slow, uneven sound, like footsteps. Connor checked the time on his phone. 3 minutes. He looked up at the house again. No movement, no lights, nothing. He rolled his eyes and leaned back in his seat. "They're just messing around," he said under his breath. Then he noticed something. The front door was closed. He sat up straight. He was sure they hadn't closed it. He had a clear view of the porch the whole time. Connor opened his door and stepped out. "Kyle," he called. "James?" No answer. He walked closer to the house, his footsteps crunching on the gravel. "Kyle, seriously, stop messing around." He stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked loudly beneath him. Up close, the door looked different. It wasn't just closed, it looked sealed, like it had been shut from the inside, pressed tightly into the frame. Connor reached for the handle. It didn't budge. "Okay, not funny," he said, knocking harder. "Open the door." Silence. Then, from inside, a sudden, loud bang. Connor jumped back, his heart slamming in his chest. "Kyle!" Nothing. He grabbed the handle again, pulling harder this time. It still wouldn't open. Panic started to creep in. He ran off the porch and circled toward one of the broken windows on the side of the house. The glass was already shattered, leaving jagged edges around the frame. He climbed through carefully, dropping into the dark interior. "Kyle? James?" His voice sounded wrong inside the house, too quiet, like the walls were absorbing it. He pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The hallway stretched out in front of him, empty. But the floor, the drag marks were fresh, clearer than before, and there were new ones, leading deeper into the house. Connor swallowed hard. "Guys, this isn't funny anymore." He followed the marks slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. They led to the same room, the one with the chair. The door was open. He stepped inside. The chair was still there, but something had changed. The dust on the floor had been disturbed. Fresh marks circled the chair again. And on the seat, there was a phone. James's phone. The screen was cracked but still faintly lit. Connor picked it up with shaking hands. The camera app was open, recording. He pressed play. The video showed the room, the same chair. Kyle standing near it, laughing nervously. "Okay, yeah, this is weird," Kyle said in the video. "Let's just..." The camera jerked suddenly. James had turned toward the doorway. "Did you hear that?" he asked. The sound came through the video clearly. Footsteps, closer now. Then, the door slammed shut. Kyle swore, rushing toward it, trying the handle. It didn't open. The camera shook violently as James backed away. And then, someone else was in the room, behind Kyle, tall, thin, barely visible in the darkness, standing completely still. Connor froze. On the phone screen, Kyle slowly turned around. The video cut out. Connor lowered the phone, his hands trembling. The room was silent. too silent. Then, from directly behind him, a slow, uneven breath. Connor didn't turn around. He dropped the phone and ran. He didn't stop until he was back in the car, slamming the door and locking it. As he reversed out of the driveway, he glanced once at the house. The front door was open again. And for just a second, he thought he saw 3 figures standing inside the doorway, one tall and 2 others standing too still to be alive. Connor never went back. Police searched the house the next day. They found nothing, no bodies, no signs of struggle, just an empty room with a single chair in the center and drag marks covering the floor. Kyle and James were never seen again, but sometimes late at night, people driving past that road say they see movement inside the house. Not random movement, not shadows, people standing in the doorway, waiting.